Welcome back, coding stars. This is a Scratch tutorial where we will introduce Scratch and explain its different parts and main features. Dear friends, if you watch this video carefully until the end, you will learn most of Scratch and won't need to look for other free or paid courses. To start using Scratch, search for Scratch on the web and click on the official Scratch website. Then, click on Create to start a new project. Scratch is a visual programming language designed for kids to learn coding through fun and interactive projects. It was created by the MIT Media Lab and first released in 2007. Developed by Mitchell Resnick and his team, Scratch helps children and beginners build animations, games, and stories using block-based coding. Let's see the sprites. In Scratch, a sprite is a character or object that you can control in your project. Sprites can move, change appearance, and interact with other sprites using code blocks. They are used to create animations, games, and interactive stories by adding actions and behaviors. Each sprite has its own properties. For example, you can change its name to anything you like. Let's name our sprite Tom, just like in Tom and Jerry. We can also move the sprite using the mouse and change its position on the stage. We can also set the X and Y values to place the sprite at a specific location. Let me set X to 200. You see how the cat moves to the new location? Let me move the cat to -200. Now you can see how the cat shifts to the new position. Now the cat moves up when I set the Y to 100. You can see how it changes its position on the stage. If I set Y to 0, the cat will return to its original position on the stage. Let me set X to 0 to move the cat to the center of the stage. These buttons are used to show and hide the sprite. You can see how the cat hides when I click the hide button and shows again when I click the show button. The size property is used to resize the sprite. Let me change it to 50. Now let's try 150, 200, and 300. The 100 is the original size. The direction property is used to set the sprite's rotation. 90 degrees is the original state. Also, these three buttons help us set the rotation mode. All directions, just left and right, and no rotations. Let me try some code to move the cat. I will use the motion blocks to make the cat move. Let me add the Move 40 Steps block to the coding area. Now, when we run it, the cat will move 40 steps forward. Let me add the When Green Flag Clicked block. This block runs the code after it when the green flag at the top of the page is clicked and the project starts. As you can see, it's similar to the green flag at the top. Next to the green flag, we have the stop button that stops the running code. See how the cat moves when I click the green flag? The code runs and the cat moves as instructed. Okay, let me return the cat to the center of the stage by setting X to 0 and Y to 0. Now, let's take a look at the coding blocks. Here are the motion blocks, which control the movement of the sprite. Here are the looks blocks, which allow you to change the appearance of the sprite, such as making it say something or changing its costume. Here are the sound blocks, which let you add sounds to your project, like playing a sound or changing the volume. Here are the events blocks, which are used to trigger actions in your project, like starting a script when a flag is clicked or when a key is pressed. Here are the control blocks, which are used to control the flow of your project, such as repeating actions, waiting, or creating loops. Here are the sensing blocks, which allow the sprite to detect things like touching other sprites, mouse position, or the color on the stage. Here are the operators blocks, which are used to perform mathematical calculations, compare values, or combine strings of text in your project. And finally, here are the variables blocks, which let you create and use variables to store data, such as scores or counts, and control them during your project. Okay, I'll delete the cat sprite since we don't need it anymore. We can add new sprites using this section. As you can see, there are many options to choose from. The categories at the top act as filters to help you find the sprites you want more easily. And here are lots of sprites for you to choose from. You can pick any sprite you like for your project. Let me select a shark sprite. Now we have a new sprite to use in our project. Let me introduce the costume tab. Here, you can find all the costumes for each sprite. As you can see, the shark has 3 different costumes. These costumes are used to create animations and bring the sprite to life by changing its appearance during the project. Let me add some code to animate the shark. I'll use the next costume block to switch between the shark's costumes and make it look like it's moving. I added the when green flag clicked block. Then, I added a forever block to make the shark animate continuously. I added the next costume block inside the forever block. To add a delay between the shark's costumes, I added the wait 0.1 seconds block. If we don't add this delay, the shark's animation will be too fast and will look unnatural. Now let's run the code. You can see that the shark is animated. It will continue animating forever because the animation code is inside the forever block. Now, let me add some code to move the shark on the stage using the arrow keys. We can use the when key pressed block to make the shark respond to the left, right, up, and down arrow keys. I added another when green flag clicked block. This will make the shark start responding to the arrow keys when the green flag is clicked. I added a forever block to continuously check for key press events. This will allow the shark to move as long as the user is pressing the arrow keys. Then I added an if block to check if a key is pressed. Inside the if block, I will use the key pressed block to detect the specific arrow key and move the shark accordingly. I added the right arrow pressed condition inside the if block. Now, when the right arrow key is pressed, the shark will move in that direction. I added change X by 10 to move the shark to the right when the right arrow key is pressed. The shark will shift 10 steps to the right each time you press the key. I duplicated the code and set the new block for the left arrow. Now, when the left arrow key is pressed, the shark will move to the left by changing X by -10. I did the same for the up and down arrow keys. Now, when the up arrow is pressed, the shark will move up by changing Y by 10. I duplicated the code for the up arrow and set the new code for the down arrow key. Now, when the down arrow key is pressed, the shark will move down by changing Y by -10. Let me run the code and test the movement. You should now be able to move the shark up, down, left, and right using the arrow keys. You see, the shark is moving on the stage using the arrow keys. Let me add a fish sprite. I changed the size of the fish sprite to 70 for a more natural look. Let me move the fish to the top right of the stage. I added the when green flag clicked block to start the code when the green flag is clicked. Then I added a forever block to continuously check if the fish is touching the shark. I added an if block. I added the touching shark condition inside the if block to check if the fish is touching the shark. I used the go to random position block to move the fish to a random position whenever it touches the shark. Let's run the code and test the result. When the fish touches the shark, it should move to a random position on the stage. When the fish and shark touch, the fish goes to a random position, just as expected. The code works perfectly. Let me introduce the variables in Scratch. Variables allow you to store and track information, like scores, counts, or any other data you want to use in your project. First, I delete the default variable to start fresh with a new variable. I created a score variable to track the points in the game. I added set score to 0 at the beginning of the code. This ensures that the score is reset to 0 every time the code starts running. I also added change score by 1 inside the if block, where the fish touches the shark. This will increase the score by 1 whenever the fish and shark touch. Now, let's run the code and check the score. You should see the score increase by 1 each time the fish touches the shark. Nice! The score counts up every time the shark and fish touch, just as expected. To make the code more dynamic, let me add go to random position at the beginning of the code, right after the green flag clicked block for both the fish and the shark. This will make them start in different positions each time the game begins. Very nice. It works well. The random positions make the game more fun and unpredictable. Let me introduce the backdrop section. This is where you can customize the background of your project, making it more engaging and visually appealing. Let me select the paint editor in the backdrop section. This allows us to create a custom backdrop using various drawing tools. There are many useful painting tools, such as brush, paint bucket, line, rectangle, circle, and text box. These tools help us design creative and unique backdrops for our project. Let me convert to bitmap mode. This allows for easier filling and editing of shapes with solid colors. I select a light blue color to use for the backdrop. Then I fill the backdrop with the light blue color using the paint bucket tool. This is a sample backdrop that we created using the paint editor. Let me remove this backdrop and select one of Scratch's pre-made backdrops for a quicker and polished look. I select Underwater one, a pre-made backdrop that fits our ocean theme. Let me introduce the Sound tab. This tab allows you to add, edit, and control sounds in your project, making it more interactive and fun. Let me add a sound effect for when the fish touches the shark. I select the fish sprite to add a sound effect to it. I click the Sound tab. Here you can find various tools to edit your selected or recorded sounds like volume control, pitch adjustments, and sound effects. I add the chomp sound to the fish sprite for when it interacts with the shark. I make the chomp sound a bit louder to make it more noticeable during the interaction. I add the Start Chomp Sound block to play the sound whenever the fish touches the shark. Let me run the code and check. You should hear the chomp sound play when the fish touches the shark. Wow, very interesting. The sound effect adds a fun touch to the interaction between the fish and the shark. You can set the project name here to give your project a unique title. Then, save the project by clicking on the Save Now link to keep your progress. Let me introduce you to the events in Scratch, which are used to trigger actions in your project. I want to add levels to the game. The levels will increase every time the score reaches 10 points. I will use broadcast message, and when I receive message blocks to communicate between different sprites and manage the levels. Also, I'll introduce the paint editor feature in the sprite section to create new sprites for the next level. I open the paint editor in the sprites section to create a sprite for the next level. This editor works similarly to the backdrop paint editor. I add a text box to the paint editor. I set the color to black for the text. I use the curly font to make the text more stylish and fun. I type next level and drag the text box to adjust the size, making it fit nicely on the sprite. Let me set the sprite location to the center of the stage so that it appears in the middle when the level changes. I add some code to handle the game levels. First, I add a level variable to track the current level of the game. This will help in managing and displaying the level as the player progresses. Then, I add a proper sound for the end of the level. I select the wand sound to play when the level changes, signaling the player that they've reached a new level. I add the When Green Flag Clicked block to start the game, ensuring that the level logic runs from the beginning when the game is started. I add the Hide block to ensure the next level sprite is not visible at the start of the game. This will make it appear only when the level changes. By adding the broadcast new score message in the fish code when it touches the shark, I ensure that every time the fish touches the shark, the game logic for the level change is triggered. By adding the When I Receive New Score message block in the next level sprite's code, we ensure that the level up logic is triggered whenever the score changes. This helps the game know when to check if the score qualifies for advancing to the next level. By adding the If block, you're creating a condition to check whether it's time to start the next level. I need to check if the score can be divided by 10. For this, I will use the equal and mod operators. I place the score variable in the correct spot. Next, I create a score mod 10 block. Then I check if the result is equal to 0. Finally, I put this condition inside the If block. Now if the condition is true, the new level will start. I add a change level by 1 block to increase the level. I set the next level sprite to be shown. I add the Play Wand sound until done block. And finally, I hide the next level sprite again, so the player can continue to the next level. Go ahead and run the code to check how the levels increase as the score reaches multiples of 10. Great! It's awesome to see the levels increase smoothly with each 10 scores. Would you like to add more features or make any adjustments? Now, let me make 3 fish by copying the fish to make the game more fun. Let's run the code and check if everything works. There might be something missing and I want you to find it. Now the game is more fun with 3 fish. Can you find the missing code? That's right, the level isn't set to 0 when the game starts. Can you come up with a solution and add it as comments? The project link is in the description. Feel free to remix it, make the next levels more fun, and add some challenges as the levels increase. These are not all the features of Scratch. If you're interested in exploring Scratch in more depth, please watch the Scratch playlists on the channel to gain a strong understanding of programming and Scratch, all while having fun. The link to the first playlist is included in the video and also in the description. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more fun coding challenges. Bye-bye!